And so we're going to record this session. Thank you. Welcome, Kim. I'm so excited to have you here. I had the opportunity to attend a Hidden More Than Words class with Kim, and I found it personally very helpful. So I'm very excited for her to share some information and expertise with you today. And Kim, I'm going to pass it off to you for you to introduce yourself and your peer, and thank you. You're on mute.
Before I had that up there, very sorry. I am Kim Gerth. I am with Rockwood School District Early Childhood Program. Let me try to pull this back up here. Okay, did it come back up there? Everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I'm here to talk to you today about nurturing communication and social interactions, or empowering young children to communicate with more than words. I am the coordinator of early childhood special education processes and behavior services at Rockwood School District. That is a brand new position for me. Before that, I was a speech language therapist in Rockwood's early childhood program for over 20 years. So I'm just kind of making a big shift here. So I actually did summer school up until June 30th and then started my new position on July 1st. So lots to learn, but also lots of information to pass along to all of you. I'm also a parent of two autistic sons. They both just turned 26, and when they were young, they taught me more about what communication is and what communication isn't than probably anybody else I know. So through them, I learned just the importance of building really strong and empathetic connections with children. So it started with my children, and then I found that the same thing worked with the children that I saw at school, and just the importance of learning them, of teaching them how to become independent communicators, not dependent on prompts or anything like that. So they can really say what they want to say and not what we would like them to say. I am a certified therapist in the Hannon Center's More Than Words program. Like Kathleen told you, I've only been certified in that program for about a year, so I've just taught a couple of classes. My colleague Robin, who you'll meet a little bit later, is actually the person who kind of taught me a lot about Hannon's strategies and the way they work. I've known Robin for a very, very long time. We were colleagues together in Rockwood, and she was actually my son's first speech and language therapist when he was in preschool. So we have talked together for a very long time, and we have very similar ways of thinking about children and how to help families feel empowered to use some strategies at home. You might be able to see what a teacher is doing at school, or a speech therapist is doing at school, and you think, well, I could never do that. But yes, you can, and you are your child's best teachers, you parents at home. So we are going to give you some tips and some strategies to help you do that at home. Okay, so first let's think about, we communicate with other adults, with children, with everybody that we meet all the time, but it's not something that we really put a lot of thought into about why we communicate with each other and how we communicate with each other. And I feel like we have a small enough group here today that, maybe just either call out or put in the chat some reasons that you can think of why people communicate with each other. Pictures might give you a little bit of clues to get what they want. In early childhood speak, we might say expressing their wants and needs. Maybe to get information, to give information, asking questions, answering questions, just socially, connecting with people. We communicate all kinds of ways that we typically communicate with each other on a day-to-day basis, because communication is just so important. Yeah, even expressing frustration, so even some not so positive emotions that is important for people to know. So in order for successful communication to take place, we need another person to communicate with. We need a reason to communicate with them, otherwise it's not really communicating. It might be just talking to yourself. We need a way to communicate. For most of us, that's verbal speech. And we also need understanding in order for that two-way conversation to happen. We are communicating what we want to say, but we're also listening and understanding what the other person is telling us. And a lot of times that impacts the next thing that we say back to them. Okay, so how do people communicate with each other? We've talked about why, but how do people communicate with each other on a day-to-day basis as a speaker or as a listener? A lot of times it's going to be verbal words, but there's many, many other ways that we can communicate with each other. Maybe gestures, pointing, showing you pictures of things. Those are all ways that we as adults might communicate in ways other than verbal speaking, right? So even we communicate with more than just words. So now let's think about very, very young children, babies, toddlers, preschoolers. How do they communicate? Some of the same ways we do, but other ways that aren't so much the same way that we do. I think somebody was putting in the chat before, like maybe taking you to what they want, crying. So how do they know? How do we know what they're trying to tell us? If they're taking us to something or crying, sometimes it's a little bit harder to figure out, right? Maybe, yeah, gesturing or pointing. Those are ways that a lot of young children might communicate, which is different than, than the way most adults will communicate. Most adults find it easiest to communicate with verbal words, or even, with texting, with the printed word. But babies and young children often don't, they haven't yet mastered the art of communication using verbal language yet. So they may use lots of other different ways. And when they're frustrated or tired or not feeling well, the language sometimes just doesn't come. So they may just cry or use body movements, more like behaviors, things like that to let you know what they want, because the language just isn't there when they're very upset. So this is why we say that communication is more than words. And this is kind of the whole main idea or theme of our presentation here today, is talking about Hannon's More Than Words program, but also just some tips and ideas that parents can use at home right away to help their children become more independent communicators. The Hannon program talks, oops, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to skip that. The Hannon program talks about 4 stages of communication development, and I hadn't really thought of it in these terms until I took the class and learned how they see kids developing. So it is kind of interesting to see the categories that they put young children into. So the own agenda stage would be a toddler or preschooler, even sometimes older, where they may be reaching for things or looking at things, but they aren't necessarily involving you yet. You have to do a lot of guesswork. You have to be a detective to try to figure out, if they're crying, what do they want? What are they trying to tell me? If they're pointing, what are they pointing at? I can't really tell, that's kind of that pre-communication stage. And from there, kids go into the requester stage. There's actually 2 parts to this stage. An early requester might be starting to express some wants and needs, like maybe taking you to things or pulling you by the hand. The later requester stage is way cool, because then they're actually looking at you, like they might look at you and point to what they want, or put something in your hand that they need to have opened and look at you. So they're really gaining your attention before they make that request, or at the same time as they're making that request. Then the early communicator stage, they're pretty much expressing their wants and needs pretty successfully, and they're starting to get into some commenting. So just talking about things. It's not even always when they want something. It's just, hey, there's a cool bird sitting outside or something like that. And they can start to answer some questions. And the partner stage is the highest that this More Than Words program goes. And that's when kids are starting to have some early conversations, some back and forth interactions where they can really, really interact and kind of hold up their end of the conversation, where you don't have to feel like you're doing all the work to keep the conversation going. And that's an exciting stage too. They're all exciting stages for different ways, especially when you look at the little tiny elements of them that show that kids are making progress. Okay, every single one of these things, like the very foundation of human interaction, begins with what we call joint engagement. That means that the child and the adult are attending to the same thing at the same time. It might be just very, very brief at first, but then it does get longer. There is kind of like this unwritten element of awareness, you know, like it's not something you can really like quantify or measure, but you kind of get a sense, he knows I'm here, he knows I'm with him, and he's okay with me being in his space, or he wants me to be right here with him, even though he's not really interacting with me. So it's kind of a hard to pin down kind of feeling, but I guess the best word for it is awareness. As joint engagement gets a little bit longer, you'll see increased eye contact. They want to show you that they're having fun. They might be imitating some things, pointing, the very beginnings of turn taking, but it's more like a nonverbal turn taking. It's not my turn, your turn. It's just this nonverbal type of turn taking that starts to develop. That leads to, this joint engagement leads to joint attention, where the child is initiating socially. So maybe they are looking out the window and they see a bird sitting on the railing out there and they want to show it to you. So they see the bird and they come find you and look at you to get your attention. And then they try to show you, pointing to show you out the window that the bird is there. And that takes a lot of thought on their part, a lot of foundational skills in this joint engagement area in order for that initiation part to happen. We have a really great handout that Kathleen's going to put in the chat for you that talks about joint engagement and how it moves into joint attention, where they're initiating more. And it's from that Hannon website. Okay, so these are just some general tips. This is from the Hannon More Than Words program, but it's also just some things that are just really good practice to be doing with preschoolers that our years of experience have taught us that really work. Getting down on their level, like to a preschooler, we're really big. We are very tall and kind of intimidating. So if we can get down on their level, then we're closer to them to hear them, to observe their body language, to see their face. And especially then, if we can get face to face to them, eye contact is more likely to happen spontaneously over time. It may not happen right away, and that is okay, but just kind of being face to face with them makes it more likely. And you know, you're showing them, hey, I'm interested, I want to be right there with you. So that trust relationship develops even more. Following their lead is very important. So it's not what I want this kid to play with so much as what do they want to play with, figuring out what's important to them, or even they love this toy, but what is it about this toy? Is it the spinning? Is it the lights? Is it the music? What is it about this toy that they like? So really trying to get in their head a little bit and figuring out what they want. It's so important to honor any form of communication as valid. So if they're pointing, you can put words to it. Oh, cookie. And it's also super important because you're building. You're just at the very early level. It's so tempting not to do this, to try to take it beyond what they're ready to do. If we're honoring that form of communication, they're pointing to cookie, we say, oh, cookie, they've already communicated to us. So we don't really want to go beyond that and say, oh, tell me cookie, tell me I want cookie, because then they're like, I don't want it anymore, that's too hard. And we want to keep them with us. We want to keep them sticking with us and keep that trust relationship going. There is going to be a time when they're going to be developing those more verbal skills, but that will come a little bit later. Any activities or toys that they need help with is a really great opportunity to get your child to interact with you. If it's something they can do totally on their own, they really don't need you. But if it has a switch they don't know how to turn on, or something that you can activate and then it stops and they need you to reactivate it, we're going to talk about that again in just a few minutes. Activities or toys that they need help with is a really great way to start that communication and interaction. Physical play is also When things are happening to them and it's fun and it's silly, you're going to get a lot of spontaneous eye contact and a lot of nonverbal indicating that they want to do that again. We talked about this a little bit. Following their child's lead means playing what they want to play. And again, it's really tempting to try to teach them. But if you try to kind of separate that out in your head and think, I'm just interacting with them. I'm just doing what they want to do right now and not worrying about, it may be an ABC toy that they really, really love, but chances are they probably already know the ABCs if that's something that they really like. So you trying to kind of put a pre-academic spin on it is not going to be the thing that keeps the interaction going. You showing that you're interested and following what they do with that is going to keep that interaction going. Interpret their nonverbal signals for when they want to keep going with something or when they're just done with it. And then building in plenty of wait time. That can be really hard to do too if you're not used to doing that, because I feel like, I know in school anyway, and I feel like a lot of parents are taught this too, that we're supposed to input language or bombard them with language is what we were taught in school, but really that can really overwhelm a little child, especially if they don't have a lot of verbal language yet. So I found over time, and also this is something that the Hannon program recommends, is just waiting. And if you feel like I'm not doing anything, this is really hard to do, count to 5 in your head. And that keeps your brain a little bit busy while you can be still watching the child and then building in that wait time to give them a chance to communicate with you. Hannon calls this owling. OWL stands for observe, just observe what they're doing. Wait, so again, maybe that counting to 5 in your head, and then listen. Do they want to communicate? Are they going to communicate in some way that they want to do that again, or that they want to keep going? And then keeping it fun is probably the most important thing that I would like to star that and put a big circle around it, because if it's not fun, they're not going to want to stick with you for very long. And it's something where you can kind of self-correct. It's especially the first few times you try something like this. If you're like, I'm going to keep it fun, but then you find yourself trying to teach them, then you can be like, oh rats, I wasn't supposed to do that. And then you can back up and just reestablish it, make it fun again. And that it's something that you're going to make mistakes in the very beginning. And I think it's good to know that up front, that it's something that is a evolving learning process with your kids. This goes back to that point I did a couple slides ago about toys that kids might need help with. Is a great opportunity for interaction. We call them communicative temptations, or I've even heard the term gentle sabotage. And the key word here is gentle. You want to keep it fun. You don't want it to be like, nah, I'm holding this away from you, and that's gonna stress them out. That's not going to entice them to communicate at all. But things like spinning tops, where you can spin, and then it stops, and they can't get it started again, or they might try but aren't able to, or a wind-up toy that they might not be able to work. Pieces in a hard to open container where it's clear they can see the toy is in there. And again, if they give it to you, if they kind of shake it and look at you, then you can say, oh, open, and open it without placing a demand of them verbally imitating just yet, because that, we'll talk about that a little bit later, but it kind of puts it into a different part of the brain, and it takes it out of that fun learning realm that's going to keep that trust relationship going. Giving them just a very small amount of food, like maybe 5 goldfish. They'll eat the 5 goldfish, then they're going to want more, and you have all the rest of the goldfish. So any way that they let you know that they want more, if they reach for it, if they know you have it, if they look at you, then you can say, oh, goldfish, here's some goldfish, and put some more in front of them. Toys that are visible but out of reach, so they might be on, and again, you kind of have to use your judgment. If it's I would say, put them up on a higher shelf, but I know some of our kids see toys on a high shelf and they're like, I can get that, and they're up on the top shelf before you have a chance to even realize what they're doing. So kind of use your judgment with the toys visible but out of reach thing, because it's not for every child, but sometimes there's ways that you can make it visible out of reach without making it a possible danger for our climbers. Physical play is really, really fun. It's exhausting, but it's really, really fun. And it's often where kids who don't interact a lot, you'll see it during this physical play because there's things happening to them. It's involving their sensory system. It's meeting a lot of sensory needs for them. And it's just really fun. Blanket swings are great, but you do need 2 adults to be able to swing in a blanket. So, you can just put the kid in the blanket, swing, 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 sing a little song with it, and then just set the swing down and see what they do. They might look at you. They might kind of get up, or they might try to pull the blanket around them again. Any indication that you're getting that they want to do it again, and then swing them again. Row, row, row your boat with them kind of facing you and you holding their arms, or in a rocking chair. Those are all great examples of physical play. Taco might be putting them in a beanbag chair where the bottom of the beanbag chair is like the bottom part of the taco, and then there's the kid, the filling in the taco, and then you can fold the beanbag on top of them and give them a little pressure, and again, just sing a little song, or make up something about tacos, like the fillings you're going to put on or something like that. Anything just to keep it fun, but it's really the pressure part that they like. And again, not all kids are going to like this. It's a little bit of trial and error, but if your kid likes deep pressure, that might be a good first thing to try. Horsey rides, where you're crawling and they're on your back, or laundry basket rides, put them in a laundry basket and just kind of pull them around the floor, tend to be really fun. Chase, like I'm going to get you, kind of games we see that a lot on the playground at school, that kids who aren't interacting a lot during the things that we contrive and set up in the classroom, we'll see them start to get that interactive stuff going on the playground with those chase games, or with hiding games, or peekaboo games. If a child likes to spin, you could try to turn it into a ring around the rosy game. And again, bouncing and jumping are also really great physical play games that you can do to get that interaction going. I often get this question from parents: okay, this is great, this is fun, but how do I get them to look at me? I really want my kid to look at me. Physical play, it just happens a lot spontaneously because they're having such a great time. There's a game that we play called the giving game. Hannon calls it the keeper of the pieces. But in the giving game, we are the givers of all good things. We have, and it really helps build that trust relationship because we are the givers of all good things. So like if they love little cars, we just give them a car, give them a car, give them a car. It's a very simple game. I have a video of it in just a few minutes. But what happens with that is we give them a car, give them a car, give them a car, pause. And then all of a sudden they're either looking in your direction or they're reaching like, well, hey, where's the next one? So they're anticipating. So you're moving from just accepting into anticipating, which is a huge leap, even though it seems like a small one. Pausing during a song or fun routine, a lot of times they'll look at you if you've sung the same song again and again, and then you kind of pause at one point. They'll kind of look at you like, wait, you got to finish singing it. Imitating their play or actions can be a powerful way to get kids to look at you. We had a little guy in the spring where like our traditional therapy that we were trying to do to get him to interact, it just wasn't really, we weren't seeing the progress that we wanted to see. And he was one who loved little fidgets, just little things. He would roll things between his hands, or he would tap things on his other hand. So one day he had like this little plastic bowling pin, and he was tapping it on his on his hand, and I was like, oh, I need to just remember what I learned in Hannon. I need to let me find another bowling pin. So I did. I went and got another bowling pin, and I started tapping it on my hand, and he looked at me like, oh, you know how to do that too? It was just really cool, and it just kind of set up the stage for further interactions with him, and things just kind of took off from there, which was way cool. Okay, this is an example of the giving game. This adult, he's giving it to her. She did participate a little bit, but she didn't need to at that stage. So this little girl, she just loved to collect cards, and she had them in an order that we couldn't figure out, but it was her way of collecting, her order. The reason the adult is sitting behind her and not face to face is because it's a little bit less threatening at this stage, because we were still just getting to know her. And when we would try to get face to face, that seemed to feel threatening to her, and she would kind of walk away. So behind her seemed to be better early on. Now you'll see the adult has moved a little bit back. She's like maybe a foot or two back from where she was. And you'll see this little girl anticipating and orienting to she's not actually requesting just yet, but she's kind of more waiting for the next car to come. Just checking out her whole collection here. So what I love about that interaction is she was so calm, and she didn't feel that we were like keeping anything from her. She was allowing the adult into her space. It was just a really great early interaction for this. And we have found this with so many kids, that just starting out, hey, we got some fun things, and just being really calm about it can really help develop that trust relationship. Okay, this is an example of how I'm following her lead here. This is little bitty circles of Play-Doh, and she just wants to take the circles of Play-Doh and push her finger into them. And this is kind of a game that she developed, so I'm just kind of going along with what she's doing.
I can't hear the sound on this.
Yeah, this is muted because there was so much noise in the background. She's not making any sound here, really. So this actually goes on for, I don't know, like we did this for like 3 minutes, and I only had a small glob of Play-Doh there because I thought she was going to finish it and just kind of be done. I'm going to kind of, let's see, I'm going to fast forward just a little bit because it's like the same thing for 3 minutes. Let me go up here a little bit. I just want you to see what happens at the very end here. Oh, sorry, I went too far. Sorry about that. And I gave it away. So should just let it go. Sorry. Okay. So, I'm out of Play-Doh, and I thought she was going to be done and walk away well before now. So she's actually reaching out. She's like, where's more Play-Doh? And she's like, oh, you get it. You got more Play-Doh for me. That's why I wanted to show you this clip here. Is because the whole time that, I'm rolling the ball and giving her the Play-Doh, she's putting her finger in it. I'm rolling the ball, giving her the Play-Doh. So it's questionable whether or not you could really think, was this a joint engagement type activity? Was she really even aware that I was there? But then at the very end, she's like, hey, where's more Play-Doh? And then when I went and got it, she's like, oh, thank you. I do want to keep playing this. So she was very aware that I was there, even though that interaction didn't happen. And I think that's something that we often don't realize with our little guys who don't have very expressive faces and don't really show us a lot that it matters to them, whether or not we're there early on. That's why I really wanted to show you this clip, because it did matter to her. This is an example of honoring a nonverbal signal from her. This is our OT. And these are little like liquid tiles. some of those, you know, where the little things are the big things. It was just, she just put her foot down on there and then was like, oh, I'm going to grab her foot and do it again. And then what I like about that, the very last time is she grabbed her foot, pushed it down on the tile and then moved the foot away. Like, I'm done with that foot now. I don't need it anymore. But that's the very beginning of nonverbal signals. And again, you know, Lauren or OT kind of needed to be standing to be able to put that much pressure on the tile. But I think in this little girl's case, it was probably better that we weren't quite so close to her. If we would have been like right down by her, she might have felt that that was threatening with us being so close at this point in our development of that trust relationship with her. Okay. This is an example of protesting, a nonverbal way of protesting. And we had developed quite a good relationship by this point. So I wouldn't have done this necessarily with somebody, a little child that was brand new. So I have all the cars on the other side of me and I'm just giving her cars. What happened here was the class was supposed to go outside for recess. And then it was pouring down rain, so they had to come in. So I was just trying to kind of keep her, she was upset that they had to come in. So I was just trying to reestablish something that was happy for her. And this car game is always happy for her. So you'll hear some of the stuff in the background, but so I'm just giving her cars because I don't know which one she wants and she's letting me know which one she doesn't want. And it kind of seemed to turn a little bit into like a game at some point because she could have easily at any time gotten up and gone around me just to get the whole rest of the cars. But I think she was kind of enjoying the interaction here, and you'll see it in a second. Not that one either. And then that one was okay. And that actually, this game went on for several minutes. I just showed you a brief clip of it, but I wasn't trying to have her protest. It just kind of happened there because I was really trying to figure out, does she want all the metal ones? Does she want all the big ones? Does she want all the little ones? And I don't know what her pattern was. You know, we kept going because for her it was fun. And she seemed to be enjoying it even when she was kind of pushing it away. You can even kind of see her smile a little bit when she's doing that. Okay. This is an example of me in the beginning not following her lead, but then I figured out something that I could do to honor what she wanted. So I'm starting out with bubbles because she likes bubbles, and what I wanted her to do was to let me know that she wanted more bubbles, but she had another idea here, and you'll see what it looks like. She looked at me there, so I was like, all right, maybe she wants more bubbles. If any of you are getting an idea about what she really wants to do here. Oh, you know what? It cuts off before. Sorry about that. This was an earlier clip and I forgot to include the rest of it. But basically, she really wanted to jump. So she loved the ABCs. So I just put the bubbles away. And as she was jumping, I would go A, and then she'd jump and I'd go B, and then she'd jump, and then she'd look at me and I'd go C. So she basically wanted to jump to the ABCs. And I just kind of had to set the bubbles aside and go with her wanting to jump. And a little bit of background or context, everybody was outside. They were all out of the room, and this particular day she didn't want to be outside. So we just used it as, hey, let's just do some fun things. And so I think she's excited that she has the whole room with no kids to jump around in. But that's just an example of where following her lead kept the interaction going better than what I wanted to do, which was bubbles. I'm sorry I couldn't show you the whole thing. Messing up on getting that. Okay. So everybody always wants to know, okay, that's great that they're taking me to things, that's great that they're reaching for things, but how do I help them get to that next communication stage? All of those things I just showed you, just doing those over and over and over again are going to help those new skills develop. And, little bits over time are going to get them to the next stage that you're trying to get them to. Other strategies are modeling. So telling them the word that goes with that action, repetition, so doing the same thing, building a routine over time, and then just pausing in the middle of it. They'll start filling in the part that's familiar. And then sometimes introducing something new will be something for them to talk about, something new within a familiar routine. And again, you need to be really, really careful with some kids that don't like new things being introduced. We need to do that very, very gently, kind of rock their boat super gently so that it doesn't become an upsetting thing. This is an example of using modeling to get to the next step. It'll give you a good idea of what modeling is. So she has like, I don't know, a bazillion tops here, and she wants me to spin them. And I'm trying to help her move to the next step of communicating on that iPad that you see there. So I was waiting because I didn't know what she wanted there, but she knew that there were more tops up there. That was something that I didn't have on the floor that she wanted. I modeled the words. So this had gone on for a while, like with just her giving it to me and me spinning the top. So then I brought the iPad down and I just used the iPad to say the word turn, because spin isn't in this program. But we use the word turn to mean lots of things. Turn.
That was so much fun.
I am not left-handed, but she put it in my left hand, so I'm trying to spin it left-handed.
This will be our last noodle. We'll do a couple yoga poses before. Yeah, maybe start.
All that waiting is really hard because I don't know what she wants. I don't know what she wants next, if she's thinking about a different top or if she's thinking about what I was modeling. So I just wait. And she took my hand to do that. So then she did it completely independently that very last time, and then I couldn't even make it spin very well, even though I was trying with my right hand. But anyway, so that's how you move a child to the next step, is modeling, repetition, lots of waiting, lots of just observing them. I could tell she was watching what I was doing. Sometimes I wasn't sure if she wanted another top or if she was processing, so I just kind of wait and watch. It's a lot of waiting and watching, which is hard to do at first, but then you kind of get into the zone and it gets a lot easier. Okay, I also get this question a lot when I try to explain this approach, because it can be really different than what professionals were taught to do in school. It can be really different from what parents have been taught to do up until this point. Why can't I just tell them what to say or do? Why can't I just say, look at me, use your words, say, I want cookie? And the main reason is because in the child's brain, it can be perceived as a demand. And that can be really hard, especially if talking is hard for them. It can almost kind of shut down that part of the brain where, if you're just playing and having a great time, there may be lots of sounds and even some words coming out. But as soon as you turn it into a demand, then it accesses a different part of the brain where they have to figure out the motor plan they use to form that word, which can be really hard for some kids. Also, the payoff needs to be worth the effort. If they see this as something really, really hard, it's going to be hard for them to feel that it's worth it. It's not fun. Why would I want to do this? That I'm not going to get anything out of it, is what they might be kind of subconsciously thinking. So that's when you might see them turning away or running away or going under the table or something like that, because it's become too hard for them and not fun. We've already talked about it accessing a different part of the brain. So telling them what to do, they may not really attach meaning to that or learn that true skill so that they can do it independently. They're doing it because you're telling them to do it, not because it's an independent skill or that they see, oh, here's why I need to do this. It does interfere with that connection part of the interaction. Our whole goal is to develop a trust relationship and build those connections with them, and gradually, so the increments are so small that they don't even realize that they're learning or making progress is the way we want to be increasing those expectations. Like it's just very seamless. They don't even see that it's an effort. They don't see it as hard. And there's also a huge risk of prompt dependence when we give them too many verbal prompts. So let's say the child walks into the classroom and every time they do, you say, hang up your coat right here, put it here, and you point to the hook. If that happens every single time, then they're going to start walking to the classroom and stopping and waiting for you to say, hang up your coat, put it right here, and pointing to the hook. And that's something that it happens. We don't mean for it to happen, but it happens. So it's something that we need to just be really mindful of. What are we saying? How often are we saying it? What do I want to do to get the child to do this certain skill? And it does take a while to develop, but once they get dependent on a prompt, it's really hard to get them to unlearn that. So when we can prevent it, it has a much better outcome. Okay, so just following their lead mean that they always get to do what they want? I've had that question too. No, it doesn't mean that we want to turn them into little monsters who rule the home or who rule the school. It's just a connection-based way of teaching boundaries and limits and communication and overall building that interaction relationship. So relationship building will set the stage for the harder stuff. Let's say they don't like to take baths or they don't like to wash their hands. If you have a trust relationship that you've already built, you can fall back on that. Being in tune with their signals helps you to go step by step. Like if you know they don't like to get wet, there are things you can do beforehand to just kind of get like, we're just going to get, get your fingertip wet, then we're going to get this wet, play a game with it. Maybe even have, have them get something else wet that's not them, and occasionally the water just kind of splashes on them, oops, there's a little water on you, let's get that off. And just make it playful and fun. Put things in the water that they can play with. So there's lots of things that you can do playfully to help make the hard stuff easier. Also, the benefit of having that trust relationship already established is if you accidentally go too far, like you think it's step 1 to step 2, and it really is like a humongous leap for them once you try to put it into practice, then just back up. Just back up to something that's easy and fun, and then you reestablish that relationship, and then you can move forward the next day. It's okay to just stop and say, hey, we'll try this again another day. It doesn't mean that you failed. It just means you just need to kind of rethink it and get a plan B in place. Establishing that trust relationship just really helps to set those calm limits and those boundaries for safety, because you have to have rules in place. You can't climb the bookshelf. You can't just go out the door anytime you want to go out the door. You have to have rules in place for their safety that they don't understand. But that trust relationship will help make it easier for you to do that. And then when they really want to do something that they can't do, let's say it's pouring down rain and they want to go outside and you're like, we're not going outside in the rain. If you are able to acknowledge that want and then empathize with their distress, you're not giving in. You're not saying, fine, go out in the rain. You're saying, oh man, it's raining outside. We can't go outside today. That's a bummer, but here's something else fun that we can do. So just being able to acknowledge that, it's helped like so many kids. Like, you would think, oh, this kid's not going to let up until I give them what they want. But if you just say, whoa, that's really hard, or I see you're so sad, it makes such a humongous amount of difference. And that's something that I had to learn it over time. But it's worked with just about every kid I've ever tried it with. So going back to the hand-in approach, a lot of the things that I've talked to you about are part of that hand-in approach, but a lot of it is also just experience-based, and hand-in and experience together. Why does it work with kids? Because joint engagement sets the stage for all other communication and social interaction skills, like we've been saying. It helps the child make those connections in their learning so that they begin to be able to teach themselves. They don't really need you to prompt them through all their learning. It's like if you give them enough wait time, they start to think, oh, wait, this thing is just like this other thing. So maybe if I just do what I did before, then it'll work. So they start to generalize, which is a really cool thing when you can observe that in action. The hand-in approach keeps the child within his window of tolerance. So when you're within that window of tolerance, and this is a term from a book called The Whole Brain Child by Dan Siegel. He has a really great way of explaining the upstairs brain and downstairs brain and just all of these different brain learning things. But the window of tolerance is basically where you learn best. Some kids have a window of tolerance. I don't know if you can see me, that's about, this big, like maybe about 1.5 inches, in our thinking, where if you go too high, then they're too upset or they're too ramped up and they really can't learn. If it's too low, then they're not paying attention to you at all. They're just not attending enough. We want to keep them right within that window of tolerance. That's when they can really learn, and then just gradually expand that window of tolerance over time so that they can get a lot more successful. Something I really, really love about the hand-in approach that is, to me, unique in our approaches that we typically use in early childhood is that it empowers parents. It actually kind of elevates parents. You're your child's first and best teachers. So we want to help you learn these strategies so that you can really feel confident and comfortable with trying these things to help your child become more independent. And Robin's going to talk about that in just a second. Here's Robin.
Whoops. Can you see me? Oh, no, not yet. 1 second. My computer is spinning. Shoot, sorry.
Oh no.
Wait. Now are you able to see
Robin.
me?
Hi.
Hi, guys. So I'm Robin Walbacher, and I'm a speech language therapist, like Kim said, and Kim did a phenomenal job explaining every single slide. I was like, yes, yes. It was exactly what I was thinking. But I have been practicing for 36 years, and probably 34 of those years have been in early childhood or like the 2 to 6 year old range. I retired from special school district about 3 years ago and started my own private practice that's geared more to families and parent training. And it's RW Language Therapy and Consulting, and I specialize in autism, family support, and coaching. And I also am a certified autism specialist. My heart is working with families who have kids with autism. I'm also a board member of Autism Speaks, and I'm a certified certified More Than Words instructor for Hannon. I've been a Hannon therapist all my 34 years of working with children. My purpose of focus is to be able to teach parents functional everyday life activities that they could do to incorporate language, or incorporate language in everyday life activities. You know, dressing, eating, opening a book, opening a door, going potty. Those are all times that we can incorporate language, but most people don't think about those times that you could work on language skills because you're always busy doing things. So that's my focus. And then, Kim, can you change the next?
Sorry about that. Yep.
No, you're fine. So, as Kim said, Kim and I both teach Hannon Center's More Than Words program. I have been teaching More Than Words program for 10 years. I had mentioned that I was a speech language therapist for special school district in early childhood. And about 10 years ago, I started working in an ABA classroom, which is a classroom for kids that are on the autism spectrum or have pretty significant social communication behavioral needs. And what I found that all these families didn't know what to do to help their kids. And me being a Hannon therapist and always focusing on parents and teaching parents, I became certified to teach this class. And since then, I've been teaching it for 10 years. This class is life-changing. I've had so many families that have gone through it. So it's for parents. I have aunts, uncles, grandparents. I have like one family I just had 7 family members, cousins, they all attended. And the beauty is if everybody knows the same information, then everybody can carry over and that child has more opportunities. This is all for home use. It's not for school, but it's for families that have a child on the autism spectrum or have significant social communication needs. And the kids need to be around age 2 to 5, sometimes 6. But typically, because that's the focus of Hannon's More Than Words program. And Kim beautifully explained there's different levels of communication. And so in the Hannon Center, so it's a PowerPoint presentation. It takes about 2 hours to go through the whole thing. And the reason it takes so long is it goes through 4 different levels. Like Kim had mentioned before about the own agenda, the, oh my gosh, I forgot the second. Requester stage.
Requester,
Thank you.
yeah.
Gosh, early communicator, and then the partner stage. So we show videos of real life families that are practicing the ideas that I'm telling you. So what happens is for every single thing, if we're talking about how to owl, which is observe, wait, and listen. If we're talking about face-to-face, getting face-to-face to your child. If we're talking about people play, which is more like that physical interaction. I'm going to show you, or Kim would show you, videos at every single level. So it would be a video of a kid that's not really focusing and attending to what they want. They're not really communicating what they want, to a kid that can express his wants and needs, but he's still so frustrated and he may or may not have joint attention, which is, just that ability to like look at something, look at you, and then look at something. And then there would be another videos, or I mean, it's not always all 4 videos, but throughout the whole thing, it will show you videos of different levels of kids. It will show you videos of kids for, these topics for the kids at the early communicator stage. So those are the kids that are talking, but they can't really answer questions. They're expressing their wants and needs, but they might not always talk about things like, look what I saw, or, can I have this? And then there's videos of kids that are at the partner stage. So those kids that are kind of socially awkward, or the kids that don't really know how to participate in a game, or how to, do pretend play. So for all of these levels, we have the videos. So when I teach this class, because of COVID, Hannon has changed it to where you could do like telepractice. So I do it through Zoom, and I do it 2 different times. One is in the evenings after your child goes to bed, because that was a big thing, is parents couldn't always do it because, they have their kids or they're working. So I do it like one night a week for 8 weeks. In the evening, and then I also offer it like on a Saturday morning. So for those that can't make the evening, hopefully they could make a Saturday morning. Hannon says that we can have up to 8 families at a time. I've done it one-on-one, and I've done it up, 8 families. It really just depends on the need and how many people are contacting, us. And then Kim, if you don't mind the last slide. So with regards, I kind of told you a little bit about more than words. And basically, what Hannon says is you're going to learn practical strategies to help your child communicate and interact, as I said, during everyday learning activities, everyday routines and activities, mealtime, dressing, bath time, playing, reading. So of those 8 weeks, each week we have a different topic. So like the first topic is helping your child helping you become aware of how to follow your child's lead. So, you're going to work on things like face-to-face, being at eye level. You're going to learn about owling, which Kim mentioned about, how you observe what your child's doing. You wait and listen, observe, wait and listen. You're going to learn about different interactions, whether it's like at first, include your child's interest, and then interpret what they're doing, and then imitate what they're doing, and then gently intrude. So those are like different strategies that you're going to learn with regards, and that's with interacting with you and others. And then so the third week is we talk about people play. And so there's people play and people toys. People play are like, those interactions of ring around the rosy, playing horsey, those physical. People toys are like what Kim said, is having a toy that a kid needs help with. So it's like bubbles. Give them bubbles and don't open it. It's something that they need help with, like the spinner. They can't spin it on their own. Another week we talk about is how to, incorporate language in everyday routines, dressing, eating, brushing teeth. And then another week is on toy play. So we talk about the different types of toy play, the different levels of toy play. And then we talk another week about how to add language and add communication to toy play, and how to add friends. So when your child's playing with a peer, how can you help your child incorporate language during that play? And then the last week is working on like incorporating language when reading books. I don't ever like read a book like you normally, typically read a book. There's so many different wonderful ideas to make it more interactive. So that's just kind of in a nutshell what More Than Words is. And then I'm going to give it back to you, Kim. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot one more thing. Thank you. So the last thing, oh my gosh, this is the most important thing. So these are parent testimonials. After every More Than Words class I've had, I've asked parents, and actually Hannon also has, is asked parents to write just a testimonial of what they got out of it. And if you read these, I'm not going to read them for you, you can read them, but it honestly is life-changing. I've had, I think the second one is the dad who wrote the second one. He's like, you taught me how to be a father. And that was so powerful. But he's like, I didn't really know how to interact with my son. And you taught me that. The first one was a little boy who was 3 years old and ran all around. He had minimal communication skills. He would scream and temper tantrum all the time. And the mom, he's now 12 years old. And the mom, they actually moved to Canada. And Hannon Center is based out of Canada. And I keep in touch with her, and she actually about 4 years ago took the class again as a reminder. So it's just amazing. I think there's one more parent testimonial. The wonderful thing about the Hannon Center is it's not just us giving you information. We're going to give you information, but you're going to see the videos. And that's the videos, I think, is what makes the difference, because you can see another parent going through the same thing you're going through at the same level your child's at. It might not be every video, but it's many videos. And now I think we're done with mine. And this is the Hannon, sorry about that, the Hannon book. That's the Hannon website. If you have any questions at all, you are absolutely welcome to contact me. I have every Hannon article. You don't even have to go on the website. I could give you everything that you would want information-wise. When I started my company years ago, I went on Hannon's website and looked at categorized everything. So I make families a Google Drive, and I will put in there anything that you need. If you need routines, visual routines, if you need ideas, functional ideas, if you need articles, if you want things about how to incorporate, the ideas, it's all, I have everything available for families. So thank you. I guess the last thing is if anybody has any questions, those are our emails. And I'm available anytime. As I said, I only do this in the evening or on the weekend because I'm a grandma by day. I have a granddaughter, a little 16-month-old, and then a new baby coming. So I do it at a limited, but it's so important to me that it's important for families to know what's available for them. But thank you.
And I'm currently running a Hannon class that we're about halfway through. I'm going to offer, my plan is to hopefully offer fall, summer, spring to Rockwood families. I don't know that I'm going to do it this fall. It depends on parent demand, I guess, because I'm in a new position. I just kind of want to see how it's all going to go. But I'll for sure offer one to Rockwood families in the spring if we don't get it started in the fall.
Thank you so much, Kim and Robin. This was wonderful. I think that you provided us with things that we can immediately start implementing, and some really great ways to think about our interactions. I put the materials that you suggested in the chat box. I think I missed one of them. I'll be sure to add that to our resource list, along with both of your email addresses that are here on the screen. If